About a year ago, I installed one of these Schlage Encode Wifi deadbolts on my man cave garage utility door. Wasn't sure if I'd like it, but it turns out I love it. I wanted to put one on the front door as well, but the TA said she didn't want it in chrome, she wanted it in aged bronze for the front door. In case you're wondering, the TA is my task assigner. The call of the TA usually starts with "Hey hon" or something similar, maybe like a crashing noise and "uh-oh." Of course, back in December 2021, the chrome one was in stock, but the aged bronze was not. Apparently it was a victim of the dreaded supply chain. I ordered it in early December 2021 and it didn't arrive until the end of August 2022. Today I'm finally going to install it. I'll show you how I did it, as well as go through the more important steps required for me to program it to my home Wi-Fi using the app on my Android phone and the app on the TA's Android phone. The instructions make it look easy, but that assumption would be wrong. The instructions aren't all that helpful, and there was a lot of trial and error to get it to work, especially when it came time to put it on the TA's phone. It took me longer to program the app for our two phones than it did to install the Deadbolt. As I was unboxing the item, I noticed the package came with 4 AA batteries all marked OEM with no dates on them, and I wondered if they were in good shape. So I tested them against one of my own, which had already been very gently used. They look fine to me. Let's move on. While I'm removing the old Deadbolt and working on getting the new one installed, I'd like to say it would really help support the channel if you would please hit the like button and also become a subscriber. Ring the bell if you'd like to be notified of new videos, and I do appreciate your comments. Also, if you expand the video description, you'll find links to the tools and gear I used for this project. If you're watching on a computer, the video description is that bolded "more" below the video. If you're on a mobile device like a phone or tablet, there should be an arrow on the right just below the video that will expand more info about this video. In there you'll see links to my tools and gear, and if you use those links, it will help make my time and effort on these videos worthwhile. As I'm reinstalling the screws in the Deadbolt, I like to use the impact driver to get them started, but to avoid over-tightening them, use a hand screwdriver to finish. Here it's important to have this tab on the front keypad of the Deadbolt aligned with the internal mechanism so that the Deadbolt will function properly. Then you need to feed the wire underneath the Deadbolt and through this hole in the plate. Once we get the plate aligned, we'll put a couple of screws in, use the impact driver to tighten these most of the way, and then we'll need to get out the torpedo level, put it on the front door, and make sure the keypad is aligned so the TA doesn't get mad because it looks funky. After we're sure we have it level, we use an ordinary screwdriver to finish tightening the screws down the rest of the way. After that, we'll get the internal portion of the mechanism, connect the quick disconnect on the wires from the front to the back, and put the back on. Again, we're going to put the screws in and we're going to tighten them gently on these plastic parts so we don't break anything. So in this instance, I'm not going to use the impact driver at all. I'm going to use my twirly screwdriver since I have to do this one-handed while I'm holding the back portion onto the door. And then we'll finish off after this with an ordinary screwdriver after we make sure everything is nice and leveled, and we'll get it all tightened down. Now that we have that accomplished, we'll take the battery holder out of the lock, install the 4 batteries that came with it, and move on to the next step. Now I'll do the techie part. I already have the Schlage Home app installed from the Play Store from my prior Deadbolt install on the garage utility door. Finding the right place to add a new lock isn't super intuitive. It isn't in settings on the top or bottom left, it's this plus lock symbol on the top right. Now it wants me to confirm the lock in the picture looks like the lock I've just installed. Then it asks me to use the camera on the phone to scan the QR code on the back of the lock. It's offering to display a set of instructions, but I've already installed the lock, so I don't need that, and we'll move along. Now we get to the frustrating part. I'm supposed to press and release this button on the back of the lock to activate the Bluetooth and get it to hook up with my phone. Except it usually doesn't want to. If you can get it to connect on the first try, that's awesome, but I had some trouble. I tried it with the lock open, with it closed, and you name it, but in the end only one thing worked for me. The process to factory reset the lock is to hold the button down until the red light blinks a bunch of times and then stops. So that's what I did. After that, I was able to hit the button once briefly and voila! I got the blue light special and the lock and phone got hooked up. I wonder how many people remember what the blue light special is. I click Connect to Wi-Fi, and now it's going to scan for networks in the area. When I see mine, I'll click on it and then add my Wi-Fi password so I can get in, but that's all masked here for privacy. I'm sure you understand. While the app is programming the lock for the Wi-Fi, you'll see some progress bars on your phone as well as a bunch of blinky lights on the Deadbolt until it says everything is all good, and then you can proceed to the next step. Now it's going to want you to name the lock. You can go with something creative and off the wall or something bland like front door, like I did. It will want you to put in the administrator keypad code, which again, I'm going to mask for privacy. Now it's asking me to open the door slightly so it can run through the initialization sequence, but since I've already tested the lock and it moves freely, I'm just going to leave it closed. Now it's finished, and the first thing you'll notice is a notification that the lock has either been opened or closed. You can leave this at the default setting if you like, but all those notifications drive me nuts, so I'm going to turn most of them off. The only time I want a notification is if a guest code is used, which we'll go ahead and program now. Tap the bottom right corner to get to user codes, then the top right corner to add a code. All I'm going to do at this point is add a guest code of 1234 for testing purposes, and I'll change it later. I'm going to leave the option turned on to notify me when this code is used. And within the settings, I could set some temporary or recurring restrictions such as times of day and so forth, but for this I'm going to leave it with the default setting. Now that we have the lock added to my phone, it's time to go get the TA's phone and add the lock to hers. My phone is on the left, and you can see I have both locks on it. The TA's phone is on the right, and so far she only has the lock for the man cave garage. Now here's an important note. When you install the app from the Play Store, you need to create an account which requires an email and password. Something that caused me a great deal of grief was that I didn't realize that when you go to install it on a second person's phone, you cannot reuse the same email address. The second person and each subsequent person requires an account of their own with a different email address. To add the TA's phone, we'll start by tapping on the bottom right. Then we go to Virtual Keys on the top right. My name is listed as the owner of the lock, masked, of course. Tap on the plus on the top right. I'm going to be generous and add the TA as an administrator, then I'll put in her name and go through a step to send her an invite via text message to her phone. On her phone you can see a link to tap on, plus a 4-digit confirmation code to put in. Once we've completed that step, the lock is on her phone as well. Testing the lock, we can see the app shows the lock is open. I can tap on the lock icon and remotely lock the deadbolt. And reopen it. The guest code works on the keypad, and the app will reflect that the lock is either open or closed, and a notification that the guest code has been used will be along in a second. Looks like it's time to call it quits for the day. You know what that means. Thanks for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe, and use those links in the description.